Todd Archer, the mothership, broke the news that Dak's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. He's been covering the NFL since 1997. Kind enough to join us on the program. Which play was it that Dak ended up hurting his thumb?
Well, it was actually a couple of plays, Dan, where he was throwing a pass and his hand collided with Shaq Barrett, the Buccaneers outside linebacker, and then a couple of plays later did the same thing. And then his final throw was a little screen to Ezekiel Elliott, and that's when he ran off the field. He said, "I can't grip the ball." So he thought that he could just kind of yank the thumb, and he felt like it was jammed. And then when the doctors looked at it, obviously it was much more severe than that. It took him to get some X-rays, found the fracture, and here's the Cowboys season. Let's go, Cooper Rush.
Is Cooper Rush going to be, I'm not going to say long-term, but if I said long-term is 6 weeks, is Cooper Rush going to be the quarterback for the Cowboys?
I tend to believe that to be the case just based on recent history. If you go back to 2015, when Tony Romo suffered a broken collarbone in the second game of the season, they had Brandon Weeden as their starter. He lasted a couple games. They traded for Matt Castle from Buffalo. He came in and went 1-6. And I think that kind of deal, when they made that kind of sour Jerry on the whole, hey, let's get a backup veteran quarterback to come in here. Now, they had Andy Dalton a couple of years ago. That was a different circumstance. So I think this is going to be Cooper Rush. They have Will Grier on the practice squad. And you mentioned the start he had a year ago was 325 yards passing against the Vikings. He did a really nice job on that Halloween night. But this offense is not that offense. Tyron Smith was their left tackle that night. They had Amari Cooper. They had Cedric Wilson. Now it's CeeDee Lamb and guys that no one really knows.
Yeah, I'm wondering about the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. It felt like that's the knight in shining armor come in and rescue our season. Garoppolo has a no-trade clause.
Right.
I don't know what San Francisco would want. I don't know what Dallas would serve up as far as a draft pick there. And then if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, are you ready to play? I mean, there's too many question marks here, Todd, it feels like with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, and you mentioned to me the biggest part of that is, what does Garoppolo want to do? Because he has that no trade clause, and his team just lost Trey Lance. You can blame the weather or whatever we want to say. There's still questions about him. When he plays for San Francisco, they win. When he doesn't play, Shanahan does not win. So it would be better served for him to just remain in San Francisco if Lance struggles, if the Niners want to go back to him. And that would set him up better long-term than having to come in, learn a whole new offense, a whole new language with, again, a receiver core that is marginal. I don't know the best way to describe it. With an offensive line that is Zach Martin and a bunch of other guys, he might be better served to just stay where he is and see what plays out with San Francisco.
Give me the scouting report on Cooper Rush.
Ooh, that's a good one. Solid, dependable, will make the right decisions. Not as athletic as Dak Prescott in terms of what you can do in the RPO game and getting him outside the pocket. Decent enough arm. Players like him. He's well respected. He's a smart guy. He's always in the building. I think I just described Jason Garrett from about 25 years ago. So if they can get Jason Garrett, then, hey, Jason lasted, 12, 13 years in the NFL as a backup based on winning a one game against Green Bay on Thanksgiving in 1994. If they can get just solid play out of Cooper Rush, that might be good enough most years. But solid with how this offense is presently constructed might not be enough for this team to be alive when Dak Prescott comes back.
Because it's the Cowboys' expectations are higher. That means the fall is, from a loftier perch here. But realistically, how good is this Cowboy team? Can they be this year? If let's say over the next 6-7 weeks they don't have Dak Prescott, are they a playoff caliber team?
The division always helps, and I know everybody, we want to prop up Philadelphia and what they can be based on the off seasons they made. But this is still a weak division when you look at it, despite everybody but the Cowboys winning in week one. So that would give them hope. This was a team. Let's go back to last night. Dak did not play well even before he got hurt. 134 yards passing. He just looked off the entire game, whether it was the ankle that bothered him on Thursday or whether it was the Tampa Bay defense or whatever it was. He looked off. But this was a Cowboys team that was going to have to lean on its defense to win games this year, something we've not said around here in probably 2003 when Bill Parcells was in his first year as coach. So they can still find ways to win these games, but I think they need to take a page out of that 2003 formula where they did lean on the defense, did play smart situational football, and that's how you can get by. But, after a game like last night, I'm sure there's a lot of Cowboys fans that are already thinking, can they tank for Bryce Young? Can they go get CJ Stroud going to come out? Whatever it's going to be. So the week-to-week nature of this league doesn't bode well for the Cowboys at the moment based on what we saw last night.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, and this was the eye-opener for me last night, Todd. We're talking to Todd Archer, ESPN, NFL reporter, covers the Cowboys. It felt like they were doing gimmicky stuff on offense. There was a lot of reverses and misdirection. And normally the Cowboys would just line up and play power football, and then I realized they can't do that. Like relying on gimmicks on offense against Tampa Bay at home opening night doesn't bode well.
Not only relying on gimmicks, doing it on the opening drive. Think of the play that lost 9 yards, I think, on Tony Pollard's first carry. Mike McCarthy said they had some deceptives in their game plan that they thought would work. And clearly they didn't. And not only is this a team that would line up and play power football, but this was a team that could also always overcome the mistakes because of the talent that they've had when it was Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, even go back to the Romo era when it was Dez Bryant, Miles Austin, Jason Witten, DeMarco Murray, and those guys. They could overcome their mistakes because they were so talented. This team, the margin for error is much smaller, especially on offense. And again, penalties were an issue last night. Terrence Steele, their right tackle, had 4 penalties. 3 of them came on one drive. This is not a team that can live that way and expect to win. And if you're Mike McCarthy, think about when you took this job. You thought you had one of the best offensive lines in football. That group never played a game together. Dak Prescott, if he misses, say, the next 7 games, will have missed 18 of the 41 games Mike McCarthy has been this team's head coach. This is not what he signed up for, but this is what comes to the dinner when you're the Cowboys coach. There's a lot of pressure on Coach McCarthy.
Do you think Jerry was, it felt like he was far more patient, too lenient with, McCarthy's predecessor. And now does that factor in the time frame? Like, is McCarthy going to get the same grace period as the head coach?
Well, I don't think he'll get a decade as much as Jason Garrett got, right, as the head coach. And Jerry has said that one of the biggest regrets he's ever had was only giving Chan Gailey 2 years. And oh, by the way, that team made the playoffs both of those seasons, even though their record wasn't great. Patience with Jerry, he always talks about, hey, I'm 80. I need to win now. This is a team that, I believe can win. We'll find out what the Cowboys truly believe of their team as how they attack this quarterback spot. If they go out, add a veteran, find somebody, if they don't believe Cooper Rush, or if they want to get somebody behind Cooper Rush to be the guy. But, Mike McCarthy's entered the season on the hot seat, if we want to call it that. I don't know if any of that really changes, even with Dak Prescott's injury.
Good to talk to you, Todd. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
That's Todd Archer, covers the Cowboys, ESPN NFL Nation reporter.